Kia ora, I'm Marie. Welcome to my Ripples of Impact presentation. This is my first year of study towards a postgraduate diploma in specialist teaching with an endorsement in early intervention. I've been a kindergarten teacher for most of my career. Early on in my career, I realised that more than anything else, I wanted to ensure tamariki felt seen, accepted, valued and loved. Ever since, nurturing children's well-being has been the purpose that has guided my practice. Completing a Master of Child Play Therapy in 2020 and then practicing as a play therapist focused and deepened my ability to work in line with this purpose. Unfortunately, working as a play therapist became unsustainable. However, I got to experience a short fixed-term early intervention teacher role. I enjoyed this work. It aligned with my purpose, and it enabled me to make use of much of the knowledge and skills I gained from my play therapy experience. I hope to be an early intervention teacher again one day. In the meantime, I'm enjoying teaching kindergarten once again and bringing my play therapy experience and specialist teaching learning to my practice. In March this year, I began in my current role as a permanent teacher at a kindergarten here in Wellington. I believe relationships are foundational to teaching and specialist teaching. As my relationships with tamariki, whānau and kaiako have grown, I've been increasingly able to put my new learning into practice. This presentation focuses on the Neurodiversity Theory module. The way I applied my learning from this module was to prepare a presentation to share with the teaching team I'm a part of. In the presentation, I include elements from the module that were new to me or that I found helpful to be reminded of. The best way for me to share my significant learning is to give a brief overview of that presentation. First, we talked about the meanings and differences between the terms neurodiversity, neurodivergent, and neurotypical. We talked about the many different aspects of each person's neuroprofile. I added in some of my own thoughts to the slide from Max. You can see these in the bluish text. We talked about the autism spectrum being a wheel and how segments of a person's wheel can fluctuate depending on stresses, such as hunger or uncertainty, and regulators, such as having time to engage in interests or to be in a quiet space. We talked about variable attention, hyperfocus, time blindness, preference for visual information, and profound empathy. I contrasted deficit medicalised terminology with Māori terminology, which respectfully conveys the lived experience of being neurodivergent. Max speaks about how being neurodivergent comes with both challenges and beauty. I thought about how this might look in relation to preference for novelty and change, attachment to routines, and hyperfocus. I ended with this quote from renowned play therapist Gary Landreth. If we focus on the problem, we lose sight of the child. I think this quote reinforces the importance of seeing the tamaiti holistically. I shared the resources I drew on for my presentation. As I put together my presentation, I thought of some examples of how my learning linked to what I had noticed happening for particular tamariki at kindergarten. You may have noticed I included some of these in my presentation. For example, I included this about variable attention. A person may experience both moments of high distractibility and moments of intense focus. Kay doesn't sit for long at lunchtime because he's looking for something that is more exciting to his brain. He can also be very focused and engaged around the play he really enjoys, like projective play with dinosaurs and cars. Attention Autism urges us to engage tamariki by offering an irresistible invitation to learn. Evidence of ripples of impact for kaiako came through the conversations we had during the presentation and through comments on a survey I asked kaiako to complete at the end. Kaiako highlighted parts that stood out to them. I really loved when Marie explained about different terminology in Te Reo Māori. It shows how Māori see neurodivergent tamariki strengths, rather than seeing them as lacking or disabled. It feels like Māori have a gentle approach and show more aroha. Learning about the trait of profound empathy was an interesting takeaway for me. Kaiako shared their unique perspectives. For example, I spoke about how the term high functioning can be harmful because it disregards the huge effort it takes to function at a high level. And I spoke about how the term low functioning can be harmful because it disregards people's abilities and strengths. One kaiako, who is neurodivergent herself, shared that she appreciated when the terms high and low functioning started to be used because they felt better to her than what had been used previously, severe and mild. Kaiako also shared changes they planned to make to their teaching practice in response to the presentation. I have a better understanding of the brain and some of the challenges experienced by neurodivergent children. I will slow down and give them more time to work things through. It encouraged me to see tamariki from different lenses, to find their strengths, and to use a more gentle and calm approach. As well as talking about tamariki generally and about particular tamariki, conversation arose about our own sensitivities, preferences, and ways of being. Sharing about ourselves and sharing our perspectives helped strengthen our team's connectedness. Through discussing the presentation content, we developed shared understandings about neurodivergence and ways we can support tamariki. For me, putting together the presentation and then presenting it consolidated my new learning. The presentation helped kaiako see the passion and knowledge I have around supporting tamariki with additional learning needs. It contributed to my being trusted to provide more leadership in this area, such as guiding the team through individual plans for tamariki. Over the past few weeks, new learning from my presentation and the team conversation that emerged from it has trickled into our team's practice in ways that have led to tamariki experiencing increased regulation and well-being. For example, one child's need for proprioceptive input is being better supported through proprioceptive play being planned for, provided, offered and allowed. Information about proprioception has been shared and discussed with his whānau. We now have a visual flow of the day which we are using to enable children to predict and understand what's happening next. Talking to a child about signs he is hot has led to him beginning to spontaneously take off a layer of clothing when he is feeling hot. Thank you for being an audience to this story. Ka kite.